Hi, thank you for coming back to this sessions, Ask the Expert. Today, I have here with me Regina Wong, an experienced DevRel engineer. She has been in the Web3 as a playing the role as a DevRel since 2017. And welcome, Regina Wong, and let's chat about and hear about her story in the DevRel realm. Hi, Regina. Thank you for
Hi,
coming.
thank you. Thanks for having me. Excited to be on your show.
Thank you. I know that we have been trying to do this and trying to meet up, but finally we are here. So
Yeah, exactly.
well, let's get started and start right to my first questions that I'm always interested to know from all my guests is how you become a DevRel engineer, how it all started. Because I stalked you a little bit in your LinkedIn profile. I don't think you studied in this field, and somehow you ended up here, and you have been staying for quite some years. So, how it comes about?
Yeah, DevRel is well, yeah. If you check my LinkedIn, I wasn't a DevRel by title since 2017, but I've been working with developers on like the support team at first it was at Coinbase, and the second was not a Web3 company, but it's called Zeppelin. And yeah, DevRel didn't really exist at that time. I'm trying to think. Yeah, it was very uncommon. But yeah, how I got started was probably I think it started with me wanting to be a developer first, actually. So way back before all this happened, um, I I went to college. I didn't study engineering, but I did end up signing up for a coding boot camp. It was called Dev Boot Camp, and it's no longer around anymore. But it was like one of those like 3 months long, learn everything you need as quickly as you can to be like a full stack web developer. And my first programming language was Ruby. I was learning Ruby on Rails, and I was just on like everyone in that path. We're just like starting out like let's be a software engineers. That's the goal. So right after the boot camp, I got a job at a healthcare startup, being on the front end team. And one thing like I didn't realize, I thought like being a software engineer would be like building really cool websites and apps, or getting to be able to build a whole process. But in reality, a lot of software engineering, especially like in the beginning when you're starting out, is just like answering tickets. And for me, whenever we got like a ticket, like a Jira ticket with like a bug or an issue, I'm always like curious to know like where these like these issues came from, like who are these customers, who wrote in. And so as I was trying out my developer role, I found myself wanting to be a lot closer to where like my work was coming from, and I didn't really know what that would look like. Fast forward a year later, I found out about an opportunity to join Coinbase on their support team. They needed help with developers who were writing and using their API, and they just kept saying, you should join, you should join, this is, we need your help. And at that time it wasn't a developer relations role. It really was just part of the support team, which is really, I love that. And yeah, that's kind of how it all started. I would say it was just me realizing that there are different ways to help developers or be a developer and use your engineering skills than just like building, solving tickets, fixing bugs. You can really like build relationships with people. But yeah, kind of rambling a little bit, but that's kind of how it started. And yeah, I guess from then on, I just naturally kept doing similar, like going that similar direction where, yeah, first it was at Coinbase, and then next I joined the support engineering team at Zeppelin. And that was really cool. They were a company that specifically hires only people who can code to help out with support. Um, and it's a pretty fun experience working with like a team of like technical people. Um, and yeah, and then after that, I ended up at O1 Labs.
Yeah, I think that a lot of the time we kind of trying to solve we kind of like to be something that like we're trying to solve our own problem, and ended up like we do help other people in solving other people's problem as well. Like, we get in this what we get into DevRel. So to me, it's like, just like what you have been doing, as long as like we be able to help any developers, build a relationship with them, have them try out the technology, that's DevRel. I
Yeah.
think that like a lot of I think a lot of people, right, do not really have the title as a DevRel, but it's actually doing DevRel job. I think me too at the same time than doing that. Yeah. All right. So if anybody watching and have any questions for Regina, please feel free to drop some questions in. And yeah, well, now that like you have like landed your job in like doing something about DevRel, so when you just started as doing the kind of job relating in helping developer in your first few months, what kind of challenge that you have, and you think that is something you can share to help out anybody who would like to break into DevRel to get ready for the kind of challenge?
Yeah, I think the biggest or the most, like, among everywhere I worked, I think the first challenge is learning about what your company does and what developers are using. I think being a developer yourself, using your own product, I think that is the first challenge, I think, is for being in DevRel, trying to understand their pain point. And also it's important to note that, like, one thing I always have to remind myself is, as DevRel, like, I feel like I get to know the product a lot more. I spend, like, it's my job, and I get to spend 8 hours a day or more on it every day, every work day. Whereas your average customer or developer, they're probably just going to be, they're going to spend way less time than you are on your docs, on your product. So that's something to keep in mind. Like, you have to come in and remind yourself, and like constantly, what your first experience is like. So I guess that's the biggest challenge with DevRel, just like getting to understand things, but also remember everything so that you don't forget later on down the road, and you don't expect everyone to be in the same place that you are.
That's a very good point. I think that is what exactly I feel when I first joined the company, a blockchain company, that I do not know much about it, and I really spend like not only 8 hours a day. I think I pretty much spend my working time, my personal time, my weekend time studying about that. But that's okay. I love it. I mean, it's something that I really want to learn, so that is okay with me. Yeah, but there are some people would say that, like, if you want to be a DevRel and to advocate for a certain technology or a certain company, you need to first understand really well about the technology. But there are some of the job description do say that, like, even if you do not really understand it very well, as long as you're willing to learn, please apply. What's your thought? What do you think that, like, which school you think that it's more appropriate? I mean, it's like, in your own opinion, no right or wrong, but
Yeah, totally. I mean, I guess I've seen both ways. I've seen DevRel sometimes be developers in the community that have, switch over to the other side, and now they're the ones helping others. I think that's really cool. That would, save a lot of time, and it also would, I don't know, gain a little bit of respect too from the community, as in, oh, you were one of us, you understand our pain points. Um, I think it's okay both ways. I think it's good to have a variety of experience, because I know if someone came in from the community and knows, or someone who's a product expert coming in to the job, it's still very different. I feel like when you're like a developer looking at a product, you always ask, like, why don't they just fix this? Why don't they do this? Or why don't they do that? And then once you're on, like, the other side, as part of the team, you realize it's not that easy, or like,
yeah,
yeah, we hear that a lot, but yeah, we
exactly.
want to fix everything, but it doesn't work that way. But that's something that I think, as DevRel, you need to figure out a way to make both sides happy, or just kind of communicate that in the best way possible. And Yeah, I think that's something that's something that's cool and fun about DevRel because it's like relationship building. People are generally understanding and kind if you just explain to them what's going on. The only reason people get mad, and this also applies to like customer service. One of the main reasons people get mad is because there's like a miscommunication happening somewhere, and or maybe just something like, even if something breaks in your product, it's okay if you explain things patiently and set expectations. And I think that's true also in DevRel as well.
Yeah, I think that sometimes you really need to get into other people and walk in other people's shoes to really understand that, what kind of problem they are facing, when you come from a different side of the situation. Yeah, it can be quite different. I mean, it's like,
actually, what's your school of thought on that? I'm also curious.
I actually, the time that like when I started I was in NAM somewhere around 2017, 2018, and that time there isn't that many like informations about like blockchain that like we have today. So I don't really have that much of information to understand. So I really have to go and ask developers in the company, like how things work and all this. And I find that like for me as a person that at that time do not know much about Web3 to go and find out about the things, I found out a lot of information that like as an experienced developer in the company would not think about, because I almost come in as from the community perspective that I'm learning something new. So because of that, I found that I'd be able to build something or the informations from a totally different perspective. So I do see the benefits of not knowing that much, but know something about the technology, but join them. Because like when you sometimes you know it very well, you kind of like skip some points that you take it for granted that like, everybody knows it, but no, not everybody knows it.
Yeah, I agree. You have like a fresh perspective on things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's why it's ideal DevRel team is one that has like a variety of people from different backgrounds. And I would say majority of teams I worked on, or at least that seems to be the case. I mean, a lot of times it's not very common to hire someone who knows your product inside out, or even if they do, there's always, things that they don't know. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. All right, cool. Now, just want to know, like, for a DevRel engineer or people in the DevRel, what exactly, like, you do the most? Like, how's your week look like?
Hmm. For me, I think my week is dependent on what projects I'm working on at the moment. And I would say a lot of my time actually is spent, I would say, learning, trying to find out what's happening, asking questions to people on my team. And once I learn information, I can put something together, and maybe it could be a document to help hackers at hackathons. Maybe it could be a presentation, or for like a workshop. I think that's generally, I would say, how I spend a lot of my time, just like reading, learning, talking to people. And yeah, even just talking to people takes up a lot of time, just setting up meetings with people, setting up meetings with your developers. Yeah, I don't know. I would say that's a bulk of what my week looks like. If there's like a specific conference coming up where I have to give a workshop, then the whole week kind of shifts really, like, it just shifts differently, because there's this one event coming up that you can't push that back. It has to, your presentation has to be done by then, and you have to be practiced and well versed in that. So then that's one aspect of DevRel I like. I feel like generally, based on what the goals are of the company, or like what projects you're working on, your day to day can change a little bit, and there's a lot of variety. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah,
It
what's
sounds
your
like
day? Yeah.
it sounds like it never a down moment in a DevRel life to me.
Yeah, definitely. It's always interesting. It's not monotonous, which is something I really like too
Mm.
about DevRel. It's and yeah, it's, I don't know. I like that aspect of the role and the field.
Yeah, I think I like that the part of the life as well as being part of the team of the DevRel. But like there's always something come up, and there's always some new needs from the developers, from the community. There's always some new needs coming from the project that is building on the platform. Yeah, it sometimes is surprises. I mean, it's like it surprises that I never thought from this perspective, but like these things came up. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think that
there's definitely
I think that's the
surprises.
part that is very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Um, as you're all like come to up to be about like 7 years in this DevRel kind of like roles. I say roles is because like that there's so many different things that like under the DevRel umbrella, like technical writer, the community manager, the DevRel engineer, and
Yeah.
DevRel support. It all is fall under this umbrella. As all this time that like you have been working in this field, I would say for yourself, what are you looking forward for the future? Like what you hope to improve for yourself, and you think that is going to help a lot in as the trend going on for like Web3 or especially like DevRel in that Web3.
Yeah. It's yeah, I felt like with DevRel or any kind of developer like support roles, there's so many different projects to work on. I feel like you do a little bit of marketing, you do a little bit of technical writing, you do some support, you do even sometimes sales, I would say. Like sometimes like, oh, the goal of, this period is to like get all your developers to try out this feature or like get them to, I don't know, share some feedback. There's always like a little bit of a sales aspect to it as well. I think what I would like to see on, or like for even me personally, is out of all these things, I feel like I've done a little bit of all of them, but I would like to get really good at something. Like maybe it's like building tools or becoming like a better technical writer, or even marketing, or community building. There's so many aspects of DevRel, and I've been noticing where I've been noticing that it's valuable to get really good or specialize in maybe one or two of those. Like, I guess you should be able to do everything, but like just get especially good at maybe writing, or especially good at marketing. And more likely than not, when you're a DevRel, you're part of a team. And as part of a team, I think I would like to see this kind of division of like expertise. Like you can rely on me for doing some of the marketing stuff, or I could rely on my coworker for building out certain tools, whatever is interested in, like whatever we're most interested in. And so I don't know, I think that's something that I would like to see for myself, but I also hope to see a little bit more in DevRel, because I feel like whenever companies hire DevRel, they're like, you should do it all. But when you do it all, jack of all trades, you become master of none. And that could be sometimes not always the best thing, even in DevRel. So I don't know. Maybe that will change. Maybe in a couple of years, it turns out, no, you just have to be jack of all trades to do this job well. But I don't know. That's for me. For me personally, I'm interested in going that direction, like focusing on a couple of those things.
Yeah, I think there is a term for jack of all trades as well, which is a generalist, which I would consider myself as pretty much a generalist. I do see some of the challenges when you are generalist, when you are not really like specific, very, very good in certain thing. You kind of like, good in everything. But somehow, recently I do see that a job description specifically asks that, like, if you are a generalist, we want to like talk to you kind of things. Then I went, oh wow, I mean, like, as a generalist, that is somebody do value that this is someone that be able to probably overlook the whole team, that the person do know a little bit about like technical writing, how should you manage a community and all this. I think as a generalist, that's my own opinion. It probably will be more suitable as a managerial role, probably that like, you kind of like know everything. And
Yeah.
of course, in nowadays, things have been changing very fast, and people do ended up like wanting to hire a specialist. But anyway, I think that like there is value in both as well. That probably can be a generalist that focus in one thing. That is something that like I have been reminding myself too.
Yeah, and it
Thank
could,
you
I
for
mean,
that.
it could also change. It can be like this year I'm focusing on community,
Mm-hmm.
or this year I'm focusing on business development. Like it'll just make you a better, stronger DevRel actually when you get to try and focus on a few things. And then I don't know. It also makes the role
Yeah,
more interesting.
I think that's a good point that like along the way we can develop something new for ourselves. Yeah, I think that's a
Yeah,
good point.
yeah, absolutely.
Right. Yeah. Now I would like to like take our focus to like zoom out a little bit to talk about like the whole industry, not only about Web3, like in general in the tech
Mm.
scene. Uh, do you see that like people start to value more about DevRel? Because I think that like only big company like Google or maybe Microsoft or whatever, that they at the very beginning some years ago that have developer evangelists or
Mhm.
advocates that during that time. They're only starting recently that there are more reports coming up to show that like to study about the trend, about the salary range, study about like the the compositions of like female and male in the DevRel. Yeah. Um, what do you see the trend? Like one thing that I
Mm.
see, just to give you an example, is like one thing I do see that it seems that in DevRel the proportions of male and female seems to be a bit more half and half. Is that
Mhm.
my point of view is maybe that like naturally women is better in building relationship. If we are not more nurturing, it seems to be like better fit for this this role. So what's your opinion? Like having been into this industry really for this field for quite some time.
Yeah.
Where do you see the trend going?
I think I could only speak for DevRel. Like the first time I met another DevRel was in the crypto space. And I think in the crypto space, I've seen a good, I would say, yeah, I agree, a good balance of like female male, um, which is awesome. I don't know, maybe it's because, yeah, I don't know. I felt like DevRel, one, it's like DevRel felt like a great opportunity for someone who's like, oh, I want to I want a career change. I don't want to just be a software engineer, or someone who wants to become more technical. They enter DevRel. So I feel DevRel offers a lot to lots of people. And it's like they require a lot of different skill sets. I don't know. I think that's the main trend I've noticed about DevRel. I'm just noticing that DevRel is becoming a popular next role, or a popular like career change option for lots of people who are, maybe just wanting to do something new, or wanting to be more technical, or wanting to get into crypto. I think I've also met a few people who got into crypto through a DevRel job. Um, kind of like me. I got into crypto that way as well. It wasn't like
Mm,
we joined in like with any other role. It feels like DevRel is a very like open like type of role for people to take on it and try out. And I don't know, people do really well as for a first time role. You can do amazing things. um, but yeah, I don't know. I've noticed that's like the main trend. I'm just seeing a lot of people becoming interested in that, asking me what's DevRel, and over time people start knowing a little bit more. Like, oh, I understand what that means. Like I get it. And then yeah.
yeah. a lot of like DevRel people I talk to, they kind of get into the job accidentally.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's more like accidental than like totally planned. That, okay, I'm going to choose a DevRel as my major, and after that,
Yeah.
I'm going to get a job in DevRel. So that uh, doesn't happen yet. Mostly it's accidental. That like, okay, we cannot get somebody to take care of this, and then we are gonna call you a DevRel.
Yeah.
All right, I think yeah, like there will be this last questions that I'm going to ask from you is if there is someone who want to get into DevRel,
Mm.
is there any advice you want to give to the person that like what they should do?
Yeah. I feel like if someone wants to get in DevRel, they can, as long as they like want to. I would say I recommend trying to learn a little bit more about like put yourself in the shoes and just pretend you are already a DevRel for the company or product you want to join, and think like deeply about what you would do if you're a DevRel, because that's really what I feel like the job is. It's kind of like go into it and um, try to like learn the product, but also figure out ideas or things that you want to do. You might need to brush up a little bit on maybe like the technical skills if that is something that you want to focus on, or if the company that you're working with is primarily very like technical heavy. But also for DevRel, I think it also would be useful to like look around at other companies with good DevRel like teams or well-known DevRel reputations, and look through their docs, look through their Twitter, and find out what are they doing, what kind of things are really resonating with developers. I think that's I don't know, that's a part of DevRel I really like, kind of like the creativity. But yeah, I think if you want to
Hmm.
get into DevRel, I think just going through a few more exercises like that, where you're just wondering, okay, what can I do as DevRel? What would I do if I joined day one? And um, there's always like, the list of like, I guess the standard list of things like write docs, put together a hackathon, or, you know, do support for developers. But I think it'll be kind of a cool exercise to think about like, what else can I do? But yeah. And also DevRel Uni, DevRel YouTube videos. There's actually a lot more resources now, I think, about what DevRel is like than literally like a couple years ago. If you Google DevRel on YouTube, there's like tons of videos now. Whereas back then, I think when I first did my DevRel, like when I was first joining my last company for DevRel, I think there were like 2 videos total on YouTube about DevRel. So it's changed a lot.
All right, cool. Yep, thank you for your all your comments and all the information given. So as thank you for that. I would
Yeah, of
like to
course.
ask, and I would like to give you opportunity to ask me a questions back. Any questions?
Yeah, I'm curious to know how has because I imagine you are talking to lots of. Oh, sorry, is my video on or off? I feel like it's a little bit
Um, yeah,
neutral.
I do feel that like the internet might be a bit laggy. I can still hear you, but
Okay,
the
that's
videos kind of froze a
oh
bit.
no. Okay, well that's okay as long as you can hear me. That's all right. I'm
Yeah.
curious. At this point you've met and spoken to so many DevRels and talked to them about their experiences. I'm also curious to know from your perspective, are you noticing any interesting trends about DevRel, or like, do you see something like, I don't know. I'm curious to know what your thoughts are about DevRel in the future as well.
Yeah, interesting questions. I have been watching a little bit, and there is some negative and positive feedback about DevRel. I think let's. This is my opinion about like Web3 side, because I think everything in Web3 is going very fast. People, I think. They will expect, if you want to get into DevRel, people will expect you to know a lot more about the Web3, and that's normal. I think you should know about Web3 at least to to get into a Web3 DevRel job. But they do also want to know that you understand about their technology. As in other DevRel, when in non Web3 like Web2, I think is getting. I think they have like less focus on DevRel, as I think maybe it's also because that like most of the technology have been quite established. But I do think people have started to understand that gone was the day that like you just go out there and like, hey, we built something and everybody will come. Now the question is like, do you build something, will they come? So DevRel would be something getting more important to kind of like bring your technology out. That's pretty much what I thought about the trend. And the thing is, a lot of company hiring DevRel do not really understand what they are looking for in the DevRel, what kind of metrics they are measuring against. So, like DevRel might know about it, but I think probably a company and the HR would need to have a better understanding what actually they are looking for in the DevRel role. So I think the kind of awareness is getting there. Because more and more, like you say, now previously there's only like a few. It's not that many now. Like I still search on YouTube. There's probably about 10, 20 channels that's talking about DevRel. But still not many. But I do think that like there are more and more coming up. So I'm quite positive about it, even if there are certain people saying that I'm leaving DevRel because they expect us to do everything, and we are human. There's no way we can do everything.
Yeah,
that's true as well. But as we come up to voice it out that this is how DevRel is supposed to be, and you will be getting better result because you do this, I think it will get better.
I agree. I think right now some companies might, yes, with Web3, I think that's an industry where I've seen the most DevRel like focus. Like it feels like Web3 is super hungry for DevRel. They, developers are their customers. And as a result, I think some companies might be like thinking just like, oh, hire DevRel and everything will be solved. But it's not that easy. And it's not fun for the company. It's also not fun for the DevRel team as well. But it's just something that I think will be figured out over time as like companies figure out, okay, where does DevRel play into, I guess, the marketing strategy or the business development strategy or the product strategy. I think it's different, and maybe it will always be that way. Maybe it's DevRel is, I would say, is kind of, it could be a tool that a company uses to figure out what they need to do, or it could also be like the team or group that figures out what to do, if that makes sense. It's like it can go both ways. And
I think it's always both ways, that like it's just like customer service, right? We providing some customer service, but we always want to have the customer to feedback to us, and we have to be open to feedback, open for feedback that only we can learn. And like sometimes I go to a restaurant and something I don't like, I'll tell the boss or the waiter or waitress that like I'm not really happy about this, and and my reason is like if I tell you about it, it means that like I might still come back, and if I don't tell you, you can rest assured I'm gonna walk away and never gonna come back again, and just not gonna tell because it's not gonna bother me anyway. So I think that like when there is some feedback coming, I think as a DevRel or as a company as a whole, if we open to feedback, it is a good thing. It means like people are listening, people are care even to spend that time to fit it to fit some information for you for improvement.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely, that's actually probably my favorite question when I meet other DevRels, like in real life, I ask them like, what's your job like? What are you up to too? So even like these questions for me, I ask the same questions for other people because it's always like a little bit different, even though we do like very similar things. There's like maybe different motives behind it, and yeah, it's exciting. I don't know, so I'm excited to see who else you interview next and hear what they say.
Yeah, I think like more and more like DevRel come together to learn from each other. I'm sure that like this field is gonna get more matured and more uh, bring more benefits to the company and to the developers community as a whole. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think
Oh,
another thing to note is like you also don't need to be like have DevRel as your job. There's plenty of people who are kind of doing little bits of DevRel itself, even within
yeah,
my past company. Everyone in my team did DevRel
yeah,
tasks and had DevRel responsibilities. So it's a role, but it's also more like it can also be like a mentality too. Like,
yeah.
build your product, but
Totally agree.
think of who you're making this for.
Yep, totally agree. All right. Thank you, Regina, for spending your time to chit chat with me
Of
here
course,
and
yeah.
share your experience about DevRel. And I think that like we all stay together as a DevRel is gonna go like have a brighter future. I'm sure.
I agree. Yeah,
All
I'm
right.
really excited. Yeah. Thank
All right.
you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to end the stream here, and well, I'll see you like somewhere else, hopefully in person one day.
Yes, definitely.
All right.
Take
Bye.
care. Bye.